Welcome back, everyone.
Here we are. Has anything happened since our last live stream?
It's been a pretty quiet week, I would say, and
Uneventful.
it's crazy that almost 30 people are here before we even said anything actually relevant to sports.
Yeah, that's true. We've got some news tonight. Perfect
In
timing. It's almost like this report came out in anticipation of a two-plane stream live stream.
that, I had the same thought. I mean, they were like, "All right, we got to report this about 40 minutes before the boys go live, so we can kind of talk about it. They can hype up our offensive coordinators of the future." Which will be fun to talk about. And there's also been a lot of transfer portal stuff, and it hasn't even opened yet, which we'll probably get into later in the live. But you alluded to it, Brum. Biggest news of the day: Oklahoma hires co-offensive coordinators. Seth Littrell, promoting him from being an offensive analyst to the OC and apparently the play caller for next year's offense. And tight ends coach John Finley will be the other co-offensive coordinator. I mean, I don't know who wants to kick it off.
I was going to say, should we wait a second, let more people get in here? Should we talk a little the college football playoff rankings that just came out? I don't know if we want to get.
Yeah, I think.
Let's start there, yeah.
What did you guys think about Ohio State being at 6 ahead of both Texas and Alabama? To me, it's almost like they're saying if somehow Iowa beats Michigan, they're going to put a one-loss non-conference champion Ohio State in over a team like Texas or Alabama, that's what it looked like to me. What do you guys think?
It really kind of surprised me a little bit.
I was shocked.
It's not like Texas's loss was a bad loss, nor was Alabama's loss a bad loss either. I think it's a little crazy. I mean, it's basically saying Texas has no shot.
Yeah. They're also saying that Michigan's a lot better than Oklahoma.
They are. Well,
I don't think that's
That's what the quality of losses is what they're saying there, and they're saying Ohio State's one loss against Ohio State is a lot more impressive than Texas's loss to Oklahoma.
I think that's fair, looking at this season, especially because OU dropped two to teams they shouldn't have. But real quick, before I say my part, we're almost at 100 and 3 minutes in. It's been a while since we've done that, so make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Definitely smash that like button on the stream. It helps us a lot. But I agree with you guys. It basically puts Oklahoma and Oklahoma State screwed Texas from being in the college and having a real shot at the college football playoffs. Because I think if they got their shot at Oklahoma again, and they won, which I genuinely don't think they would have. Like, I know it's going to sound like a biased take, but Oklahoma also started playing really bad offensively towards the end of the game and needed a miracle drive to win. Like, there's a good chance if Texas and Oklahoma face off in the Big 12 championship, would have been fun for all of us OU and Texas fans, but it would have given, I guess, either school a real chance at the playoffs. Even a 2-loss Oklahoma team, it would have given Texas a chance to redeem themselves and get bumped up to number 4.
I agree with your take, though, especially with the way it played out now, because Brigham Young almost gave us that opportunity to play Texas again. And had that happened, if we're playing this Texas team this weekend with no Jonathan Brooks, a very banged-up Xavier Worthy, I don't think Texas beats us in that game either. It doesn't matter, but I agree with you.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting. I think Oregon is going to wall up Washington. I don't think Washington is that great. I think Bo Nix should be the Heisman winner only because Jaden Daniels has 3 losses.
It's not a team award.
I understand, but Bo Nix is completing 78% of his passes right now, and he is ultra efficient. I mean, Jaden Daniels is fantastic too, but historically it is a team award. You can't have – I mean, how many Heisman Trophy winners have been on 3-loss teams?
I understand, but it shouldn't be a team award. And I think I still have Washington beating Oregon.
Do you really?
100%.
Why?
100%. Because they beat them already. I believe in that stuff.
I think it'll be a close game, but with neutral field, I think Oregon shows that they're the better team.
I mean, I don't know. I think Oregon beats them by 7 to 10 points. Soundly
The
beats
spread is
them.
9.5.
Yeah,
Hammer Washington plus 9.5. That's a lock of the week, boys.
I hope Florida State loses for the sake of the playoffs as well.
I don't.
I don't either.
All right, let's take this question. Shout out BL. We still haven't really gotten the guts to try to pronounce your name. I'm sorry, but here's this question: away with biased humans and back to computer system, or I guess more of a comment. Especially with 12 teams, anti-Big 12 bias is real. And hold my nose, Texas should get in if they win.
I agree, assuming Florida State loses and they win out. If Florida State loses and Texas wins, I also believe that they should be in. But that won't be the case. I don't want that. But
I understand if Florida State is undefeated. I mean, I understand the argument, but to be completely honest with you, if they're 14 or 13-0 and Texas is 12-1, I'd rather see Texas go.
I agree with you that Texas would. I think they would curb stomp Florida State. So if you want the 4 best teams, either Alabama or Texas, assuming Bama beats Georgia, because I don't think you put a 2-loss team in, but I think they would both curb stomp Florida State. But I don't think that it's impossible to leave out a team that's undefeated. They can't do it.
Yeah, that's basically where I say, like, you can't say that an undefeated Power 5 team isn't one of the best teams in the country. Maybe not a top 4 team, but you got to use some just numbers when you look at it. And I get it that they lost Jordan Travis, so probably not going to be as good as they were 3 weeks ago. They're still undefeated.
I understand, but
I mean, everyone struggled.
I don't think, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost to Louisville this weekend.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the game has to play out, right? But if they win, you got to let them in. But if they lose, they don't have the luxury of like a Georgia, I guess, in this scenario where if Georgia somehow loses, I think that's really the biggest question. If Alabama finds a way to win, it's hard to say you keep Georgia out. But you have to put Bama in, and then you assume Michigan wins versus that terrible football team in Iowa. Then who you put in? FSU if they win, Texas assuming they win, which they probably will, or Oregon assuming they win. Oregon or Washington, which conference champion at that point. All right, Jacob Matthews, shout out Jacob for the super chat. I think that's what they're called. What position or player from the portal do you want the most? I don't want to say specific. I guess I'm just going to name players that have already announced, and I would love Omari Abor because we talked about him a lot when he was going through his recruiting cycle. And Oklahoma didn't make it in his top 5. I had to go back and look.
I did too.
But they were pretty much in the thick of things, and that was with the previous staff. You don't know. Maybe this staff is able to create a better impression, especially with how Chavis has been doing in creating relationships, and I think he's developed that edge spot pretty well. They might not be the best defensive line in the country, but they're good. They were really high up there in tackles for loss, and he seems like a guy when you were looking at him out of high school that could get to the passer, which is one thing that we need opposite of either R. Mason or PJ.
For me, it would be a cornerback or 2. You're going to have. Well, I mean, Woody Washington's going to go to the NFL. I think you're obviously losing a lot of experience there. Unfortunately, Gentry Williams has shown that he has some injury challenges, and I certainly hope for his sake and everything everything gets cleaned up. That's a little out of his control. And the depth, and I understand that OU's bringing in like Jeremiah Newcomb and Eli Bowen and a few other guys. Like I understand that, but I think you need to bring in a guy that's got a couple years under his belt, who's played somewhere and has some experience, because the depth is good. It's just young, and I think you need a little bit of a veteran leadership there. And I think they will go get one or two guys for that cornerback room. It'll be talented. It's just, unfortunately, McCarty Vickers hasn't played a whole lot. Josiah Wagner hasn't played a whole lot, and you're losing a lot of experience, in my opinion.
I was going to say the same thing. Another boundary corner, because Gentry, for the same reasons that you mentioned, I think Kenai Walker, when he was out there, was shaky at times, is a nice way to put it. I think you mentioned the young guys, Josiah Wagner, Jacoby Johnson. I think they're going to be players, but they are still young, and I guess just to be different, just the trenches. I think both the offensive line and the defensive line can use some more bodies as well.
I mean, you can always use them. I mean, that's why we are Two Plane Sports, right?
But within the trenches. Before we move on to the next big topic of the night. 125 already, boys. It's a big day.
Shout out
Oklahoma
y'all.
Sports and today. Yeah, shout out you guys.
Yeah. And we're 63 subscribers away from 6,100 subscribers. So half of you subscribe, we can get to 6,100 tonight. So do that. It's free, easy. And remember, we go live every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Central. You don't have to just, occasionally join in. Come on a weekly basis. And turn those notifications.
All right,
so
boys.
I think we could probably start talking about the offensive coordinator. What do you think?
The big news of the day. Said it at the top of the show. Oklahoma has their next offensive coordinators in Seth Littrell and John Finley.
Guys.
Program guys for sure. Venables decided to promote from within, which is probably a really good policy when you look at other, big programs that win. Typically, they don't go outside of their immediate rooms of coaches when they are promoting. I mean, look at Saban, usually just promotes from within, unless he's got a really thin analyst group or really young analyst group. And I think the big takeaway from the hires, just right off the bat, is Littrell will be the quarterbacks coach, which is the first time he's specifically coached that position, but it'll also be the play caller. So probably a good call there, where he is the more experienced play caller. John is still, we'll get to learn under him and have a more direct influence on how this offense will move in the coming years, more than likely.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting, and I mean I like the hires for sure, but with the whole concept of Littrell being the quarterback's coach and not having coached that position before, it just brings back nightmares of Roy Manning coaching cornerbacks. And I'm not saying Seth Littrell is that by any means, but it's just not a position that he's coached before. So that's my initial thought. But I mean, I know he's got the support and the infrastructure behind him. And I think John and Littrell will be able to balance each other out. And it seems like Littrell and Coach B are kind of, they think kind of similarly. And I think it'll help the offensive line play too.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of offense they're going to run. We know Jeff Levy with the tempo and the super fast play calls and all that stuff. I'm curious to see if Littrell and John will kind of slow it down a little bit at times. Maybe there's times to go tempo, and I think there's times to slow it down, and hopefully they can kind of master that. I think they're coming into an offense that's going to be loaded with talent, and you got to thank Jeff Levy for a lot of those guys. He's going to have. They're both going to have a 5-star quarterback in Jackson Arnold. They're going to have an elite level tight end and Devon Mitchell, the number one running back in the country, and Taylor Tatum, or your number one recruit in the country, or running back recruit in the country, and Taylor Tatum, depending on the site that you look at. Jaquez Pettit from the last class. You got Zion Kearney coming. There's loaded with talent, so I'm very excited to see kind of how they run this.
I like this pairing, and I think a lot of people were hoping to get a big flashy name, and it's kind of falling into the trap of Texas A&M. You just look for the guy that is the sexiest hire. But these hires are the ones that made the most sense for Oklahoma. And Littrell is a good play caller. He showed it in his times as an offensive coordinator and the head coach at UNT. I think something that is being forgotten about Coach Finley is that he has been under now 2 of the smartest offensive coordinators in the country, and with being under Lincoln Riley, I think for a year, and then Lebby for 2. He had a lot of opportunities to sit in a room, learn how they scheme up plays, learn how they draw everything up, how they game plan for the week. I'm sure there's a reason he's not the play caller, because he's not experienced like Littrell. But those 2 are probably going to work very well together, because Littrell does love to pass the ball around, but his offense is very much, I would say, like Lincoln's, where it's supposed to be a run-first offense, and then you build your pass game off of that, which we talked about all the time when Lincoln was a head coach at Oklahoma. You run the ball. Once you establish that, that's when that offense is really moving. While Finley has gotten to see how a little bit closer in how Lebby game plans, which is a little bit more air raid, and the run game isn't as important to his play calling style. So it'll be interesting how they balance it out. And also, one thing that I thought about immediately was, will Finley stay as an on-field coordinator and Littrell go up to the press box? Will they both be on the field? How is that going to work? And how they'll figure that out for the upcoming season.
And Joe John's not only been with Lebby at Oklahoma, he was with him in some capacity at Baylor, and then for a little while with Ole Miss, and then came to Oklahoma with him. So he's been associated with that, Briles style offense, kind of that spread offense for a while. I do wonder if the idea of doing the co-offensive coordinators is to maybe they're kind of somewhat equals, but it's to free up some time and not put all the responsibilities on one person, where they're able to recruit better and actually be able to focus on one aspect. Because like on the defensive side, I mean, you've got the, kind of a run game coordinator and a pass defensive coordinator. I wonder if they're going to kind of distribute that and kind of come up with some ways to share that workload, and be able to kind of become experts in one area and basically blend it all together. Because I do wonder if Brent Venables saw last year. I mean, granted, I've been a defender of Lebby, but I'm not saying he's been immune to, not making great decisions, because he didn't make the best decisions all the time. I mean, we saw it in crunch time. I wonder if Venables saw that and thought, you know what, maybe it was a little much for Lebby to run that kind of in a, being your first time offensive coordinator at a big university, calling the plays not with Lane Kiffin. Maybe it's a little much for that. And I do wonder, since they're kind of first time offensive coordinators, granted Littrell's been a head coach at UNT, I wonder if he thought it might be a little much and we would be going through those growing pains potentially. And maybe this is a way to limit those. I think we're going to sell growing pains, but this could maybe not as much, or lessen the hurt.
I was looking at some of these comments, and a lot of people are asking about the defensive coordinator position, which we can talk about later. But the offense itself should run pretty smoothly. Probably have some hiccups in those early games. They've got plenty of time between now and then. Littrell, I think, will be calling plays for the bowl game. So, assuming that Dylan doesn't play the bowl game, Jackson Arnold gets his first go at seeing how Littrell gets to calls the plays, and kind of get comfortable with that before they go into the offseason. And I like the hires. Were there sexier names out there? Sure, but I think this is what's going to work the best. And you are putting, and it's what Venables has preached in his last press conference, he's going to put his guys in a position to grow. And if those that want to be head coaches, at their next opportunity, like Lebby, he's going to make sure that he supports them and gets them to where they want to be.
Yeah, I'm also a big fan. I think whenever we put our Jeff Lebby initial leaving video before it was official, those are at least Seth Littrell was the name that we all mentioned and the guy that we kind of preferred. So I think we did a great job. And I had a good feeling Joe John was going to be retained just by seeing what Devon Mitchell, saying he's locked in. Have you guys seen his reaction on Twitter to how excited he is for Joe John getting promoted? He is a huge Joe John guy. Pretty awesome. I think a question that goes with this, though, we've seen a bunch of players retained. We did lose Easy, receiver there, which kind of sucks. But do you think Dylan Gabriel, with a year of eligibility, because Bram, you mentioned on a live, I don't know if it was last week or a couple weeks ago, you think that if Dylan Gabriel came back next year, this team could potentially win the SEC, and you don't see that with Jackson Arnold. Dylan does have a year of eligibility. He's a huge Jeff Levy guy. Do you think he takes his talents to Starkville?
I wouldn't be shocked if he did, because at the end of the day, he's got 1 year of eligibility, and it's not going to be a total brand new system that he's going to have to learn, with Littrell and Joe John, but he doesn't have time to mess around, and he knows the Levy system. Granted, the quality of talent is not as great at Mississippi State and what they've got right now compared to Oklahoma, but he could probably go and put up some serious numbers. So yeah, I think the likelihood of Dylan Gabriel playing at Oklahoma next year, now that Levy's gone, has gone down. I kind of feel like it's going to be a fresh start at this point, because at this point you're going to kind of be starting over with all the quarterbacks, no matter who it is. And so do you really need Dylan to stay around? I kind of don't think so. I mean, the idea of keeping Levy here and Dylan Gabriel here, it kind of makes more sense, but now it's kind of...
Yeah, I see. With Dylan Gabriel, I don't think any of us would be shocked if we hear after the bowl game, kind of like with what Caleb Williams did, that he hits the portal. It's not going to be shocking to anything, but something we talk about on the show all the time. There's two women in these kids' lives that seem to have a huge factor on where they play, and it's the mom and the girlfriend. Dylan does have a girlfriend who I believe is a student at OU. I don't know if it's easier. I'm sure it's pretty easy for a student too to just change schools or whatever, but it's just an interesting thing to keep an eye on.
I would assume he goes pro. I don't think there's... I mean, I said it when we talked about it last time. I don't think there's a benefit for him other than potentially a financial one, because, I mean, I'm sure... I mean, Mississippi State did just lose Will Rogers, so they need a quarterback. And Dylan being there would help Levy again establish his culture, more than likely. But unless those boosters are ready to fork up some cash to get that transfer, to have him transfer rather than go pro, I don't really see him playing one more year, because there's no benefit to him. I mean, what's he gonna do? Go from fifth to fourth?
I feel like he should. I mean, I feel like if I were him, I would go back and play another year of college football, because it's not going to hurt you, I don't think, to go back and play. I think it can only help you barring injury. And I feel like Jeff Levy should be pushing hard for Dylan Gabriel. I'm sure he is, because you just mentioned that Will Rogers is gone. I don't know what their backup situation looks like, what their recruiting class looks like, but having a guy that is super familiar with his system like Dylan Gabriel, who's successful in his system like Dylan Gabriel, would be a perfect way to bridge that gap, if you will. I feel like Jeff Levy will be pushing hard for Dylan.
I mean, because what round would Dylan Gabriel be selected in this year's draft? I mean, fifth, sixth. The guaranteed money in year one is not that much. I mean, it's a lot to us, but it's not much relative to NFL and NIL.
Do you think one more year in college would take him from let's just say best case scenario, 4th round pick? Like it just works out. The team needs him, needs a quarterback. He kind of looks like a good backup. Maybe could eventually take the reins if the quarterback's old. Do you think that one more year gets him to being a 2nd or 3rd round pick? I don't think he has dreams of being a 1st round pick.
It could, but even if it doesn't, it just delays, and he gets to make more money this year and then cash in or make more money next year and then cash in the draft after that. So you get another year of making money rather than go to the NFL be a backup, hopefully make the roster, and hopefully make the roster year 2. You just delay.
I don't know the pay scales for like those late rounders. So I mean, he probably could make like $1 million to be the quarterback for Mississippi State or a different program. Maybe like 750. I guess it would just depend on what he wants to do. But I don't see there being a huge benefit outside of a monetary one. Which, if you go to the NFL, you'll get paid regardless.
Yeah. Well, we're north of 200 viewers right now. Be sure to like and subscribe. We're 61 subscribers away from 6,100. Hit the button. It's free and easy. And if you aren't, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked below. So do that. Let's get to 6,100 and like the video. Oh, yeah, we do have T-shirts. That's linked in the description. Once we sell 100 T-shirts, our T-shirt guy, Sammy, is going to give away a free signed Brent Venables football to one of the people that bought a T-shirt. And if you buy 17 T-shirts, you get 17 entries. So
it's a pretty cool shirt. Okay, let's talk about the defensive coordinator spot because that's been a hot topic in this chat, even though that wasn't even brought up by us. But I guess, okay, so I'm pretty sure it's everyone. Every assistant coach's contract is up. If I remember correctly, most, if not all, were only re-signed to a 1-year contract. But that does mean Ted Roof his contract is expiring. Do you guys think that he gets replaced by someone on staff, or does he stay for another year or two and keeps calling the defense for Brent Venables?
I think he'll end up staying, but if he were to leave, I think going back to what you said earlier, I think Brent Venables is going to try to promote from within. I think Jay Valai is a guy that you can keep an eye on for that job if it does open, because then you can slide Brandon Hall into kind of the secondary coach, if you will. I know he coaches safeties, but he can kind of move over and coach both. I feel like he's going to, like BL says, I think he'll coach at least 1 year in the SEC as the DC, but it's fun to keep an eye on. And if he does leave, again, I think they promote from within. I think Jay Valai is a guy to keep an eye on. Maybe even, Ted Roof's already a co-DC, isn't he?
Ted Roof's already a co-DC, is what you're saying?
Not.
Todd Bates. He and Todd Bates.
Todd Bates, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, it would make a lot of sense. It always felt like Ted Roof came in as a veteran guy to provide some guidance and try to lessen the responsibilities of Brent Venables. Obviously, Brent in year 2 got way more involved, and rightfully so, because that's his side of the ball. So it all depends. I think if Ted Roof wants to be here, I think Venables, barring some disaster next year, would keep him, and give him another 2-year deal. I don't know how many years more he wants to coach, but OU's made strides from year 1 to year 2 in this defense, and I think they will make another stride next year as they get more talent and more guys developed. I just feel like I don't know if they would want to overhaul that. They might, but I feel like Ted Roof will be here as long as he wants to, assuming the defense continues to improve.
I believe Ted Roof's future is solely based off where James Skalski, where he is at in his development as a coach for the linebackers. Because Ted Roof is the linebackers coach at the end of the day, and you need someone to replace him. Seems like James was brought in to kind of get developed at that spot. Maybe Venables feels like 1 more year as a defensive analyst will help him get his legs under him as a full-time position coach. Ted Roof stays for 1 year, 1 or 2 years as a DC/linebacker coach. When James is ready, he'll get that linebacker position coach spot. Then you promote Bates as the play caller potentially, and then depending on how the rest of your staff looks, Valai or Brandon Hall as the other guy opposite of Bates. But you've got a lot of really good options on the staff right now, and where to go if Ted Roof isn't going to get his contract renewed. I just don't think Ted Roof is really that big of an issue. Like you mentioned, Brum, this year Brent Venables became a lot more involved. That definitely helped the defense. But I don't think his play calling was all that bad. Were there times where, yeah, maybe getting more pressure or trying to create more pressure on the quarterback would be ideal? Sure, but they did lead in tackles for loss. They were, I think they're at least top 10 in the country in tackles for loss. Led the Big 12 for a good bit of the season, if not completed the season as leading the Big 12 in tackles for loss. Like, he's called a good game. I think for the most part, when the defense collapses, they get gassed because Jeff Lebby's offense just wasn't really productive for resting the defense, which is fine. I mean, they scored a lot of points, but the defense had to be ready within 3 minutes of sitting more often than not. So maybe if there's a slightly more balanced offense where time of possession goes more for an average of 3 to 5 minutes rather than a minute 30 to 2 minutes, it gives the defense more opportunity to look their best more often than not.
And with what the offense, the offensive coordinator position, with them hiring within and naming 2 guys that are well respected, and I think we're heavily involved in a lot of recruitments. And honestly, I think Seth Littrell was more integral in a lot of recruitments than maybe we really and just by the reaction, I know Devon Mitchell's obviously a big Joe John guy, but it seems like everyone's pretty pumped as far as the commits in the 24 class of this hire. You look at the defensive side of the ball, say Ted Roof does end up ultimately not getting his contract renewed. Todd Bates and Jay Valai are both extremely intricate and very important play callers or, recruiters for their positions. And so any promotion for them would be well received. And not saying, Ted Roof can recruit and has recruited guys, but you wouldn't see a drop off like you're not seeing a drop off in the offensive coordinator. You lost 1 commit from the wide receiver room, but ultimately it kind of felt like it was maybe more mutual than anything. Maybe it wasn't like just because Jeff Lebby's gone, I'm out. I think it was maybe more, we've got 6 commits in the wide receiver room. Maybe you might need to go look elsewhere, type of one of those deals. And he probably felt the same way. So I think regardless of what happens, I don't think Ted Roof really moves the needle as far as whether you're going to get a commit or lose a commit. But I think if he calls if the defense is good this year, I think he's getting his contract renewed. I just wouldn't see them rocking the boat.
I agree.
And
at the end of the day, Venables would have kept Lebby if Lebby wanted to stay.
Yeah, and I think on the defensive side of the ball, it's Bates as the run game coordinator, Valai as the pass game coordinator. Both have the title of co-defensive coordinators, and then Roof is just the linebacker coach / co-DC and the play caller for the defense. So you've got 3 co-defensive coordinators. I think it's a clear message that there's 3 game planners, 2 of them that are specific to their spots of the defense, and then 1 guy kind of just takes on the information and organizes it because he's got the most experience.
Yeah.
Ted Roof, his title is defensive coordinator / linebacker. So, he's ultimately the guy right now.
Let's see. Going through questions. Now we've got people talking about how they miss Cale Gundy.
Cale Gundy was fantastic at Oklahoma. I think he was great.
Yeah. Kind of just got to get over it. It happened. Probably not coming back as long as Brent Venables is there.
Yeah, he's not coming back, but he was good. Seth Littrell was a less handsome coach, Eric Taylor. That's a good comment. BL's been hitting the good comments all day, though. He's been talking about the French pipeline that we missed out on.
Yeah, the French pipeline. Yeah,
we can't talk about them. We've only missed out on 1. So Grant Bree, or also known as Grant Bricks,
Now he's Grant Bree on this program.
today officially announced he was a Cornhusker. That's no surprise. But Eddie Pierre-Louis is still very much out there. Oklahoma may or may not get it. I think at this point, no one knows what the hell that guy's doing. And he'll just make a decision, and we're all going to be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. No one's really going to be disappointed.
Who was the commit for Texas out of the state of Florida, offensive lineman, that we just had no idea? It felt like we were in a really good spot, and then the last second, he just picked Texas, and it was kind of broken by an on-3 guy before he announced. Do you guys? Am I
like? Is this from like a couple cycles ago?
Yeah,
it was last cycle. I thought
cycle.
It was last.
It wasn't the 24 class. Yeah, it was the 23 class.
No, yeah, it wasn't the 24 class. I think it was the 23.
Hold on.
Bear with me. I am looking right now.
Yeah, well, as soon as I see the name, I'll recognize it.
Well, you guys look him up.
Peyton Kirkland.
Yeah,
Kirkland.
So
it was either
Peyton
us or
Kirkland.
Michigan State forever.
Yeah, and it feels like that has some sort of vibe to it, that it felt like Oklahoma felt really good for a long time. Maybe it was between us and UCF. And then it feels like it's kind of drifted apart. No one really knows. And I think someone like Oregon's going to come in with a nice package and we'll swoop it up. And
so either way, we're missing out on the French pipeline.
Or Miami. I wouldn't even be surprised if Miami came in with a nice NIL package. But it's a similarity that I feel.
All right. Shout out, Michael. Thank you for the super chat. His question is the SEC underestimating Oklahoma?
I think maybe the talking heads, the Paul Feinbaums of the world, the experts, if you will, could be underestimating Oklahoma to the SEC. But I don't think any of the teams that actually play on the field are going to underestimate Oklahoma. I mean, they can look at recruiting classes. They can look at the way that this team just won 10 games this year, beat Texas this year, who's number 6 in the country, potentially a fringe playoff team. I don't think when old St. Nick comes to town in Norman next fall, he's going to be thinking that it's going to be a pushover, rollover game, or he's going to overlook them at all.
Yeah, I would agree. It seems like it's the media personalities. It's always been that, and rightfully so. I mean, over the years, Oklahoma's defense has not been good, and that was the truth. I think the hype of Oklahoma is a couple years behind Texas as far as recruiting and the players. I think is a little far-fetched because obviously Oklahoma beat Texas this year, and Oklahoma's best players, I think, are still freshmen and sophomore right now, outside of a couple guys, like a Danny Stethman or someone like that. So I agree. I don't think the teams are going to underestimate, but I don't want us to underestimate how difficult it will be. I mean, realistically next year, I mean, the way the schedule is going to pan out, I mean, losing 3 games next year in the regular season isn't out of the question potentially with a basically a freshman quarterback, sophomore quarterback.
I think the schedule that we have next year, I mean, it's definitely going to be tough. You got Alabama, you're on the road at LSU. I will say this, though, when it first came out, and you're seeing Tennessee at home, South Carolina at home. Obviously, Alabama's Alabama. That's not going to change. But I did think that South Carolina and Tennessee game was going to be super tough. I thought South Carolina was going to be a dog this year. Tennessee, they've been a little up and down. I think those games look a little bit less intimidating than they did when the schedule first dropped.
They do. I mean, but Ole Miss is going to be a thorn in our side. I mean, Lane Kiffin and that team with Jackson Dart is going to be good. But I'm not saying that Oklahoma can't go in and win 10 games next year. And 10-2 is going to get you, and the SEC is going to get you in the 12-team playoffs. That's going to get you in. I mean, that now all the years that we've been on the short end of the stick where, you play in the Big 12, yada, yada, whatever, that 10-2 is not very good. That 10-2 in the SEC, the media seems to love that record.
You might be able to go 8-4. If you beat Alabama and you beat LSU on the road, Who knows? You might just get in on that.
I agree with you guys. Oklahoma's not being underestimated by the actual football teams. It's more so, and I think this has been an issue for years now. Just it's the Patriot effect is what I'm calling it. You just get tired of seeing the same teams be good for a really long time. So you kind of just start talking them down, hoping that people start believing it. And for a while now, people have been saying Oklahoma's overrated. And last year was the first and only time in a long time that they were able to say it was true. And then we're back to being a 10-2 team, a top 15 team in the country.
I mean, in some regard, I hate to be this way. Oklahoma has been exposed in the playoffs nearly every year.
And that's fine, but even last year, like Michigan, I guess you could say got exposed. They got beat by a TCU team that probably had no real reason to be there outside of their record. Even still, they lost the Big 12 championship and got it.
The only thing I would argue to that, because I agree that they've been kind of exposed in the playoff. 2017, they absolutely should have won the national title game. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how biased I might be. That team should have won. They absolutely choked against Georgia. I put a lot of that on the previous head coach. Alabama, yeah, they boat raced us a little bit. We did make the game interesting. It was a 10-point game in the third quarter at some points. We had hope. And then that LSU team that we lost to may have been the greatest college football team ever fielded. So
yeah,
there's a little, you got to credit them a little bit.
Real quick. Tanya, shout out to Tanya. Thank you for the super sticker. And she just ordered her son a t-shirt.
Tanya.
So thank you for supporting us. We really appreciate it.
And she also did another super sticker on our last video from 2 days ago. So thank you again.
Shout out Tanya. But back to what you were saying. I think we can look at next year's schedule real quick. So we don't have to play these hypotheticals from memory. Let me pull this up for us.
We have the University of Maine.
Share screen.
That's going to be a barn burner.
It's going to be an absolute battle.
All right. So obviously we don't know what the actual schedule looks like and how it'll line up. But those are the first, 5 on the docket. And then you've got a whole bunch of things that still need to be scheduled.
Well, Alabama's not in that order. Alabama's November 23rd.
I know, but these are the first 5 that are scheduled, right? And then everything else will fall in between there. I think, obviously, we think Texas will be the first or second weekend of October, as it's landed forever.
I think that road slate is a lot tougher than the home slate. At Missouri, all of a sudden looks like it's going to be a hell of a game. Brum, you mentioned Ole Miss. They're going to be tough. At LSU's obviously.
Alabama at LSU. I'm telling you, losing 3 games next year is not out of the picture, out of the question here. And
Who do you think we lose to? Let's look at it. Who are realistic possibilities to lose to? I think we beat Tennessee. They'll have a freshman quarterback just like us, but they can't figure out their defense at all. We have a better chance if it's Joe Milton, honestly. Alabama, I guess that's one you could say we might lose. Auburn will probably be a really close game, but I still think they have some work to do on that roster. At LSU, that's one you could win. The road environment is your biggest factor, but they won't have Jaden Daniels anymore. I don't know if it's even Walker Howard anymore. I don't know who that quarterback's going to be. They're losing their star wide receiver as well. I think Missouri is going to take a huge drop off. They're going to be next year's TCU. So I believe they're losing their quarterback. They'll still have Luther Burden, which is great for them, but they'll have a new quarterback as well. And South Carolina stinks.
I think you win the home slate of the SEC games. As crazy as that might sound, I think Tennessee's very beatable. South Carolina, they're kind of bad right now. I think they'll still be down next season, especially losing Spencer Rattler. And I think that Alabama game, you imagine, is going to be a primetime game. That's going to be a true, a home crowd for us. It's going to be rocking. I think you sneak out of that Alabama game with a win. I think the LSU is going to be tough. Ole Miss is tough. I think those are the ones that you might drop. But I think you win the home slate. I really do.
Maybe. All I'm saying is, I mean, I'm hoping. I'm just trying to set realistic expectations. You've got a first year starting quarterback. You're playing on the road in some tough environments and hosting some tough games. Losing 3 games. Texas is definitely a losable game. Alabama could potentially. LSU, Ole Miss. There's 4. Oklahoma probably wins 2 of those potentially. So,
Crazy.
I mean,
Crazy enough, I think Ole Miss might be the hardest game we play next year because of Jackson Dart returning. I don't really think they're losing
I don't
much.
think that's that crazy. Yeah.
Um,
I think if it were at Alabama, that would clearly be the toughest game. But I think being at home for that one's going to be huge.
I think LSU is going to be hard no matter how many players they're losing. Baton Rouge is a different,
we'll see.
different environment. It's going to be a night game. You know it will.
More than likely. And that's one thing. I'm glad you brought it up. Good transition to the super chat by Jacob here. Thank you for the super chat or super sticker, whatever the hell they're called. Can't wait for these to be 11 a.m. kickoffs. I'm pretty sure, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, there is not a limit, but they do have a better way of scheduling and kind of mixing up 11 versus midday versus night games in the SEC.
Yeah. No, they do. They do. But anyway, I know probably a lot of people are wanting to talk about the portal right now, too. Not talking about next year's. I mean, we got to make the team. We got to get the team to go play in 2024. Should we talk a little portal?
Let's do it. Let me stop sharing here.
I mean, we got 231 people. Man,
That's
I got to
sick.
check the
Shout out,
subscriber count. I think some people have been helping us out.
Are we up?
Yeah, we're 57 away from 6,100.
There we go.
We're moving on up. Let's get to 6,100 here shortly.
I think the goal next year is 10,000. So help us out, people. We got to get there at the end of 2024.
Yeah, 10K would be great. So I got to throw out one name, which I think is just funny. Raleek Brown? Anyone?
I was going to say that. I was going to say that too.
I thought that was so funny because he redshirted this year. So he's got 3 years of eligibility left on. He redshirted either this year or last year. So he's got 3 years of eligibility left. And coming out of, we talked about him a lot. Because again, we've been doing this for 3 recruiting cycles now. And he was I think he was in the first one we did our full coverage on. He was a guy we were really excited about because of how dynamic he could be or could have been for Oklahoma. Now he's going to have 1.5 million schools that want him, so we'll see who ends up getting him. But the fact that he was so ready to be a Sooner at one point in his recruitment might help out Oklahoma. I mean, it is a very different staff, but he still has familiarity with the offensive coaches. You still have DeMarco Murray, who was there trying to recruit him. Finley, who was there trying to recruit him. Now it's going to be part of the play design, so he can kind of be a little bit more of a first-hand resource and like, this is how I'm going to use you if you come to Oklahoma. This is the opportunities you'll get with the ball. And I guess he would be an upgrade to what Gavin Freeman is currently with the gadget plays.
I mean, how interested will he be in Oklahoma? I don't know, but I think it's interesting. I would think Oklahoma would kick the tires there. I mean, to see. I mean, obviously the coaching has changed. They've at least had some sort of conversation. Him and Brent Venables, whenever Venables came on board and right before he decommitted, I'm sure they at least had a conversation. I bet they try to go after him, but I would think he's going to have plenty of suitors that are going to go.
Oh yeah,
go after him. I mean, he's a talented player. It's just USC just couldn't figure out how to use him.
Hey, kudos to him for figuring it out, though. Maybe he He played for Link for a year and said this is not it. So that shows growth.
Shows growth. Yeah.
One thing we probably won't be seeing in this transfer portal season is an exodus at Texas A&M, how we've all expected. Thank you to the A&M Board of Regents and it's probably just the Board of Regents and the donors, because the athletic director was, I think in my opinion, doing the best thing by trying to hire Mike Stoops, but they will not promote Elijah Robinson for whatever reason, which I don't know what it is. I don't follow A&M or that deep into it. I think that was silly of them, but they did their best in making sure that the guy that they did hire as head coach would keep him, which that's the only, if somehow maybe he gets taken to be a defensive coordinator somewhere else, because there are spots around the country that would love him for his recruiting, for how good he is at recruiting. But unless he leaves, those defensive linemen are going to stay at A&M more than likely.
Yeah, I mean, I think Elijah Robinson did a great job. I think Texas A&M did a great job retaining him. Whoever did it doesn't matter. He's there. The thing that you talk about with the head coach thing, and this is what we texted about, I think it's impossible for an interim coach to be, I think, a legitimate candidate for a Power 5 head coaching job when the sample size is that small. I think that's the only thing that hurt Elijah Robinson. Because, I mean, you're right, the players love him. He's going to keep all these guys. But it's just that sample size is tiny, and I think that really hurts it. But he's going to be next in line for a head coaching gig somewhere. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he's a head coach of some school.
Might
going
be
into
A&M
next
in like
season.
3. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it might be A&M here in like 3 years when.
Yeah, if he stays that long, I'd kind of be shocked if he stays that long.
Yeah, I mean, we did have Kill Gundy stay for a million years till he was removed from the program. Assuming Elijah doesn't do something like that to get removed.
Cal Gundy was never a guy that was going to be getting a lot of head coaching offers, though. And I feel like Elijah Robinson's going to have them. Kind of like Levy was for us. Elijah Robinson's going to have them coming to him all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I think Relief Brown is maybe more of a far-fetched recruit, potentially. I know there's been rumors about if Evan Stewart hits the portal from Texas A&M, Oklahoma would have a shot there. Obviously, a talented player.
I still want Boosie Badass.
Yeah, I mean, now that Oklahoma has lost the commit of Dozie, there is an open spot, and I think Oklahoma will most likely, unless Terry Boosie decides to come back, which I'm not holding my breath there. I think Oklahoma's going to look to the portal to fill that scholarship. And who could that be? Is it Evan Stewart if he hits the portal? Maybe. But there is someone that would be an interesting fit in Donovan McCulley from Indiana. It's got the connection to Desan McCullough. Indiana is kind of in a dumpster fire for a long time. They fired their coach. But last year, McCulley had 48 catches, 644 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He'd be a solid addition. I don't think Oklahoma's going to struggle finding a wide receiver to join this class and join this team. Emmett Jones is going to go find himself a dog. What do you guys think?
Emmett Jones is him.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a guy that Oklahoma will make sure they don't lose until he has an opportunity to go be a play caller somewhere. And I think at this point, while there's still a lot of stuff going on in the coaching carousel, you kind of know who's being targeted by their schools. They've been reported multiple times. Emmett Jones' name hasn't really been out there as a guy to be a play caller. Probably not till next season, honestly. And we'll see. Maybe Finley gets a promotion to be the sole play caller somewhere if Oklahoma's offense does well, or Littrell, and then just promote Jones. But one thing, sorry, I didn't hear if you mentioned it, Brum. A&M did lose their wide receivers coach. They're not retaining him or anyone on their offensive staff. So that does open up the possibility to a Terry Bussey, Evan Stewart, if he does enter the portal. there's options there, right? But for Bussy, you have to see him actually decommit first. And I saw a quote from him that he's going to give them an opportunity to kind of sell him again on A&M and the offense that they'll have. But if they don't do a good job, Oklahoma has 3 weeks roughly to try to get back into that recruitment. LSU is going to be tough to beat there, but
I mean, Caleb Williams said the same thing.
As far as
giving you an opportunity to, yeah.
No, that's definitely fair. Another guy that you mentioned is Omari Abor. Man, that's a blast. That's a name from the past. You haven't heard anything from him in forever.
I looked him up before we started because I wanted to see, like, why would he leave Ohio State? Because even though their defensive linemen haven't been, Chase Young, Bosa's-esque in the last couple of years, JT Tuimalu has still been good. Jack Sawyer's, good. Their defense as a whole has gotten better. But it looks like he got hurt this year and missed a lot of time. So maybe the other guys got more opportunities while he was hurt and felt like it was a time to leave. Obviously, I can't read the kid's mind, nor do I know him personally, but just outside looking in, seems like that could be a reason why he's exploring the transfer portal.
It'd be a fun one for us to look at because, I mean, you're right. We were close with him with the previous staff, and now we have a much better defensive-minded staff in there. So maybe they'll throw their name in the hat and in the ring at least.
Yeah. And talking about another guy potentially along the offensive line, Brandon, you pointed out earlier in the show, talking about what positions for transfers. The offensive line, I think, is a very viable spot for where Oklahoma will take maybe one or two guys. I think you're going to see Rain probably go to the NFL. I think he's going to be gone, so he'll be out.
I think Tyler Guyton's gone too. Yeah,
Guyton's gone. Walter Rouse is out of eligibility. And McCade, Matwire, I can never say his name.
Matauer, I think, right?
Matauer. 4 of your 5 starting offensive linemen outside of your true freshman, Caden Green, are gone.
That's big sexy time. It's Jake Taylor time.
Yeah, and Jacob Sexton obviously has been filling in at the right tackle. So I think, and he's getting back from his ACL, and I think next year he'll be really ready to roll. So you think you got your right tackle taken care of. Caden Green, it'll be interesting. Does he stay at left guard, at the guard position, or do they kick him out at tackle? But I think Oklahoma is going to take potentially 2 offensive linemen, especially losing out on Grant Bree, as we like to say on this program. And it seems like Eddie Pierre-Louis is off in no man's land, and we have no idea where he's at. I think you're going to see Oklahoma probably try to take 2 guys. And also, Caleb Schaefer, when he transferred in, he only had 1 year of eligibility left, right? 2?
It's a good question. Don't know the answer.
Yeah,
honestly, I think he only had 1 year. I think him and Rouse came in with the idea of competing for a spot, 1 year left. If you get to play for Coach B, it's going to be great for your NFL draft stock. So he's gone as far as depth, I believe. A guy that Oklahoma could go after is potentially Davion Carter. He's from Memphis. He's an interior offensive lineman. He's one of the better offensive linemen you're going to see in the transfer portal. I'm sure there's going to be more guys that will hit the portal, but I would not be surprised if 2 guys are taken. And Jimmy, I wouldn't necessarily be shocked that Savion Byrd hits the portal either. He's had some tough times. Obviously, he was given the opportunity to beat out Caden Green for the left guard position, and there was a lot of inconsistency. Yeah, I mean, Josh Bates is there, but he'd be a redshirt freshman center.
Friend of the show, Josh Bates.
He is a friend of the show. Haven't had him on a long time. We should try to get him on for the off season. That'd be interesting. But still, losing 4 offensive starters, potentially losing. I think you're losing Caleb Schaefer. You're losing depth there, and potentially losing Savion Byrd to the portal. I don't know if that's really going to happen as far as Byrd going to the portal, but there's going to be a lot of depth that they're going to have to replace. And I know they've got 4 offensive linemen in this class already with Josh Isosa,
Daniel.
Akinkumi, Brooks, and I'm blanking on the last guy. But they've got, and then another guy potentially from Michigan State, Spencer Brown. I mean, there's just so many names that you could look at. I think there was also a kid from Harvard. I don't remember if he's in the offensive line or if he's a linebacker. I can't remember, but
Eugene Brooks, that's the name.
Yeah, Eugene Brooks.
Shout out Unfair Sports.
Yeah, shout out to Unfair Sports for sure. So, I mean, Oklahoma, I think you're going to see him be very active in the offensive line. As I'm talking to you guys, that's actually probably the number one position they're going to be.
You're stressing yourself out, yeah.
I am a little bit now, losing 4 of your 5 offensive starter.
That's why I said it. I think it's the most important area to target in the portal. I mean, it always is, as we talk about it. That's the name of the show, is get the big boys. But yeah, I think it's, if not the number one priority in the transfer portal, it needs to be number 2.
The trenches will be where they focus. I think they've got maybe get one corner, but I know you guys mentioned it earlier with the possibility of what that room looks like. And they might not have a ton of experience, but Kendall Dolby probably starts next year, and he got a lot of playing time this year. Gentry Williams, I think, outside of his injuries, was the best corner. If he was just able to be as healthy as Woody Washington, you probably would see that, and we would all agree. That's definitely what's holding him back, and you guys mentioned it. Then you do have young guys, but they were good. Makari Vickers played well when he got time. Josiah Wagner played well when he got time. Jacoby Johnson was a late person to enroll.
You got a pick, though.
But he did get a pick. And he'll probably understand the defense better. Might get more time. Someone that's there to help out. Like Jaden Rowe, if he can be healthy at some point, could be some quality depth there because he is big and fast. You still have Kanai Walker. I believe he still has 1 more year of eligibility, 1 or 2 more years of eligibility. So you have talent. Definitely want to get maybe 1 more guy. But you do have some young guys coming in the 24 class, and Jaden Hardy and Jeremiah Newcomb, Eli Bowen. So it's not like it's lacking people. It's just lacking experience.
Do you guys think Billy Bowman hits the league?
I hope not, but probably. I mean, realistically, he's probably a first or second round safety.
He had a year. What do you have? 4 pick sixes on the year? 5, something like that. Yeah, he's a guy that I'm not sure his draft stock will ever be higher. I wouldn't be shocked if he were to depart, which would suck. But I think that then you have to start thinking about safeties too, just for some more depth. Obviously, Peyton Bowen's going to be unbelievable, I think, and I think RS Jerry's going to be pretty good too. But I think you want some more depth there. Is Reggie Pearson gone? Does he have any more eligibility left? Just more. I mean, I
think he came in with 1 year. And talking real quick, I mean, BL, he pointed out, I forgot Zeke Corral from Notre Dame as a center, and then also he said the UTEP center, and he was meaning, I assume, is Justin Mayers. I don't think they're going to turn over the center position to a redshirt freshman and Joshua Bates going to the SEC. I think that's a must get. And then as far as Billy Bowman, I just hope OU can take care of him via NIL to convince him to come back.
Is Jada back next year? Or is this Jada Coleman's last year?
This is Jada Coleman's last year, this spring.
Respectfully,
that could hurt.
I do think that is she 1 year older than him?
I thought they were the same class.
They're in the same class. We already talked about this.
Couldn't remember.
It's her 4th season is in this spring, and Billy's 4th season is this fall, or next fall.
So then she would probably have to graduate, right, in the fall of 24, where he could leave for the league if they're trying to leave at the same time. So there is a chance he stays. I think if you just look at his, depending on his draft grade and what agents tell him he'd go at, but if him and Jada are trying to ride it out for one more season at Oklahoma for football, and they're definitely going to be here for one more season of softball. That girlfriend play helps out again.
Girlfriend play never sucks. It's always good. Also, that couple might be the most athletic couple of all time. They're going to
produce so many athletes.
They're going to go. That is a power couple right there.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out them.
All right, Michael Munsell. Shout out for the super sticker. Here's a question. Is there an OU alumni you could see coming back as a coach?
Gerald McCoy.
That's one. But isn't Phil Lodeholt already an analyst?
Yeah.
So him. Caleb Kelly.
That's kind of lame, though. They're pretty much already there doing that.
Yeah, but
I understand they're analysts. I understand they're not coaches, but Phil Lodeholt is an analyst.
It's true. And he could be the guy that replaces Coach B.
I think. But if you're talking about a guy who has absolutely no affiliation technically with the program, just with the way he tweets and the way he acts and all that stuff, I think Gerald McCoy is a guy that I would not be surprised if we found out that he was joining the staff in some capacity. He seems to be super locked in. I don't know if he wants to get into coaching because obviously it's one thing to be a super fan. We're all super fans. And it's fun to tweet and, be heavily invested. But it's another thing to, actually travel with the team and have to help build game plans and coach players and recruit and do all that. But I think Gerald McCoy is a guy that somebody who's not affiliated at all would be the one that I would pick.
Real quick before Brum goes, Akin Kudmi is the number one player in the country. Just want to throw that out there. So it's going to be underrated.
Yeah. Sam Bradford coming back would be pretty cool. I don't think he has any interest in coaching. But, naturally, Gerald McCoy is one of the most vocal players, alumni. Is there an opportunity potentially? I think it'll probably, if anything happens, it'll probably be a name that we probably wouldn't even think of off the top of our head right now. That would probably
Teddy
Lehman.
Mm-hmm. He does a lot of media, but maybe Venables can
He'd have to give up his job on the call. He'd have to give up that podcast.
Everyone has to give something up.
There's a lot. There's a lot for Teddy to give up if he were to pursue that. I think too much. Teddy's pretty. He travels with the team. He's heavily involved. He just doesn't have to do
the coaching part,
the hard work. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he makes a good living and he doesn't have nearly the stress.
Yeah.
Maybe
exactly.
the segments they do on the Oklahoma Breakdown are kind of getting those juices flowing again, where he's like, man, I really want to teach these kids how to play linebacker right.
I agree with Barney. I don't think he wants the hassle. I think coaching. Coaching is one of the hardest professions out there because you've got every fan like us saying, you're running the offense too fast and no more jet sweeps and calling from the couch and the know-it-alls and then you've got where you're working all the time and you got a good job and you can travel with the team without actually doing it.
Nick Baskins.
That's fair.
That's the way I would look at it. But I don't know. I could see how coaching would be a lot of fun if you recruiting and things like that.
Sidebar on this coaching thing, because we were talking about McCoy and me and Brandon were talking about it. Bucket list item is to get to do a Fight Song Friday workout with Gerald. That would be so fun.
I don't know how we'd train that, but that would be amazing. Although, we really would.
I think I'd squat just as much as him. Easy.
Yeah, I'm sure.
What's he doing, like 500, 400?
Yeah, that's easy. That's a warm-up set.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. We are now 56 subscribers away from 6,100. Moving on up.
Y'all crushed it tonight.
Yeah. We still got 216 people in here. Should we take some questions?
I was about to say that. Anyone have questions? Anything they want to talk about?
Football related or not? Because sometimes I think once we talk about football for an hour, it's kind of fun to talk about something that's not. Remember the time that we tried to find love on this show?
Oh, there was some weird things going on in the chat.
Yeah, I do remember.
Didn't work out that night, but we gave it our best go.
While we wait for some of these questions, if they come in, you guys want to just really quickly look at this weekend's slate of games because we're probably not going to talk about them in any videos for the rest of the week.
That's fun, yeah. Give me Iowa.
Dude, that over-under is crazy. The point total is like 33.5. Michigan's favored by, or 33.5. Michigan's favored by 23. And I don't know if I sent it to you, our group text or a different one, but Iowa's first half point total is 0.5, and the over is positive money. All they have to do is score a field goal, and you win whatever you bet.
Yeah, they're not getting any love at all. Before we talk about these, I think Keaton's right. I think the men's basketball team has earned a quick shout out just with the way they started their season. You know, they're an undefeated 6-0, just beat a ranked USC team in fun fashion. That game was awesome. I think it's their first time being ranked since Lon was on the sideline. I think I saw that on Twitter somewhere. So definitely shout out OU men's basketball and their start to the season.
Yeah, and they've got Arkansas Pine Bluff on Thursday, and then there's a big game. There's two big games next week. Next Tuesday, they play Providence, and then we play Arkansas Saturday the 9th. So,
Bro, you want to go to that? It's rock to be okay.
Yeah, I might be able to go to that one. Figure it out.
All right, some questions are coming in, but yeah, men's basketball looks better. My hopes are still not high, but they're better.
They're number 25 in the country. They're off to a hot start. If they beat Providence and Arkansas Pine Bluff and start 9-0,
and North Carolina later on in December.
Yeah, I think the 20th or something. Yeah, so Hose might be eating his words.
Are you in the Tulsa area?
You want to go to the game with Brandon?
Go to the game with me and Bro?
All right. Okay, let's take the super sticker from Craig. Shout out Craig. OU alum from ATL. Any news on expanding the seating or renovation at the Palace? The men's basketball ranked 25th. So happy. I think there was one more phase of expanding the stadium, but I don't remember if it was to add seating or just the press boxes.
It was to do the press boxes, but I think the big thing that they're working on now is to basically tear down, what was it, the old Switzer Center or whatever, and rebuild the whole workout facility, live-in chef, performance center. I think that's the big push. And I think that's the right thing to do because, I mean, Oklahoma technically right now is selling out every game because the tickets are bought. But the stadium hasn't been full 100%. Every seat has been filled. And I think Oklahoma, I don't think that they would want to expand the stadium quite yet. Because, I mean, Brandon, you've been to more games than I have this year. I mean, it seems like every game there were open seats.
Not at the beginning. I mean, at the very
Yeah.
Not for the most part. It's pretty full.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty full. I'm just saying. I mean, why would you add another 5,000 or 10,000 seats right now if you can't fill every seat? But I think they're funneling all their money to the performance center right now for the football team, which I think is much needed. Separates the program.
I think Alan Jackson is probably having a beer or two, maybe a hurricane, because it's 5:00 somewhere.
Probably. Keaton is in Broken Arrow. Best place to live in Oklahoma.
It's pretty good, but yeah, we need that OU Arkansas game, man.
All right, let's take some questions and wrap it up. Boomer 129. Why is Penn State getting so much love?
No idea.
It doesn't make any sense. They're beating bad teams. At least we have a good win.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
It's because their quality losses are so good, right? It's better to have a good quality loss than a good win.
Yeah, I think it was Herb Street or Klatt that tweeted that out after the rankings today. They're ranking off the losses and not who they're beating, which is absurd. So Oklahoma could be a top 10 team. Should be, probably.
Yeah.
All right, next game. Or next question. Crimson _Omen. Where do I suggest a song to play at the home games? No idea.
What song would you suggest? That's what I want to know. Because I have no idea where you do that either, but I want to know what song you would suggest.
It's a question back to you, Crimson_Omen. All right, Bill Ward. Dylan going to Mississippi State, or have we already addressed it? We did address it, but we can do it again real quick. I don't think he's going to Mississippi State.
Ho says pro. I think Brum and I are almost kind of leaning towards him actually following Jeff to Ole Miss.
I think it makes a lot of sense for him personally to go if he decides to leave Oklahoma. I mean, if he transfers and doesn't go pro, I think Mississippi State's got to be the spot.
Corey Parks. Are there going to be any surprise commits on early signing day?
Williams Noyer, he's going to sign with Oklahoma.
Nope. Did you guys see? I think I texted this to you guys from how Crimson Ronnie does his X days tweeting till this kid commits, and Williams Noyer finally responded and said maybe he'll stop whenever he sees I signed to the Missouri.
Yeah.
He's still going though. He went another day, so he hasn't given up. I respect the hustle.
Yeah, I mean, surprise commits. I mean, I think the craziest one would probably be Terry Bussey.
Boosty badass.
But I think you're going to see Oklahoma a little bit more active in the portal probably than what they're going to get as far as commits on early signing day. I mean, what are they at? 20, 28 commits 27. Right now? So 27 after the decommit. That's my thought.
Andrew
maybe
Rayer.
Eddie Pierre-Louis. Maybe.
Eddie Pierre-Louis, baby.
That's what I was going to say. One thing to talk about commits real quick. It is cool that, and I think kind of validates what Venables has been, his philosophy on recruiting. They're not committing to, obviously it's important on who their coach is, but they're committing to being a football player at Oklahoma and not being a football player for ex-coach, which is good. I think Oklahoma's definitely on the right side there. All right.
How about the most recent one? Because I think that's a fun question.
Hold on, let me go in order. We'll get there. That one's not really relevant. Can you see Oklahoma hiring Scott Frost in the future? I do not think so.
Yeah, I don't either.
Unless he wants to be an analyst and then get promoted.
Yeah, I would agree.
What's the most recent one? The NCAA 24 one?
No, that one's fun, but that's from Mitchell Beats.
Do the Pokes have a chance to beat Texas? No.
I mean, there's always a chance, right? That's why they play the game. And I do think Texas is a little beat up. I mean, they're definitely a little beat up. They don't have their best running back. Xavier Worthy looked pretty hobbled against Texas Tech. That being said, I think Texas wins by 50.
I mean, the thing is, they do have a shot. And you look at recent memory, Oklahoma State has given Texas a lot of problems. I mean, you look since 2013, I'm just going off of this. Oklahoma State's 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, 5-2, 5-3. They're 7-3 in their last 10 matchups against Texas. I think Oklahoma State is. I think this game will be closer than people think.
Just don't pick them to win. That's disgusting.
I don't think they'll win, but I think they'll cover. I think they'll cover.
It's like a the fan base is torn, and I understand that these are probably the teams that we hate the most, with Texas and Oklahoma State. But I, for one, and I hate Oklahoma State more than I hate any team. Probably in college football, maybe with the exception of Southern California now. To me, it's a no-brainer to pull for Texas in this one. Do you guys agree with that?
I want a tie in this game. I want them to cancel it, actually. COVID protocols. Teams can't play.
That would be fun, too. I'd be okay with that.
I
Either
don't
way,
know. I'm not going to pull for either one.
Texas doesn't have a big chance to get there. To get to where they want to be. They'll just get a New Year's Six bowl.
See, Mess is disagreeing. It's a thing. People see both sides of this.
All right, Fred Bagley. How do you guys think the landscape of the game is going to look like with NIL, portal, and conference realignment? I actually think this is going to work out and make college football more fun. Obviously, it's going to make schools like Alabama and Georgia and Oklahoma and, teams that have been kind of Ohio State, teams that have been kind of dominating college football for a while in regards to just, it's not really, you kind of just assume they're going to win every year. It's going to make it a little bit more competitive. The parity, I guess you could say, is going to be there.
I think anytime you have mobility in sports, professional or college sports, I think is better. And this is part of the reason why the transfer portal season is so exciting, because we're all glued to our phone and seeing all these posts about all these kids hitting the portal and potentially OU's adding, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys that could potentially be difference makers for them. And that's what makes it exciting. And so I think it's good. And I think NIL is working its way out. I think it's going to be good. In conference realignment, I'm excited.
I'm excited for that too. Did you see the question from Michael Munsell about that? Do you guys think the Power 4 separates from the NCAA?
I hope
in the
next 10 years, yeah.
The NCAA is the worst thing of all time. They do nothing.
They really do nothing.
One of our friends / I guess kind of a guy that annoys us regularly, our Oklahoma State friend, was texting me about how he hates the NCAA. And, sometimes I disagree with him because he feels like they're kind of getting targeted. We were talking about that report that came out about Ward earlier, that there's multiple $1 million offers for him to enter the transfer portal and transfer somewhere. Like, it's blatant that the NCAA rules are being broken because there's these bids for kids that aren't in the transfer portal to enter the transfer portal and go somewhere else. That's a clear violation of the rule. But the NCAA will do absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah, they're awful. Can't stand the NCAA.
I 100% agree. So
Dana Holgerson as an offensive analyst. That would be a fun one. I know he's only been fired for 2 or 3 days now, but to me, it's a little bit weird to see there's no smoke about Dana Holgerson anywhere right now. At least I haven't seen it. If you guys have seen it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have not seen Dana Holgerson linked to any job or any program since his being fired. So I think it's interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with him.
I think that guy, again, if Coach B's ever in a position where he might not want to coach for a much longer time, or Venables wants to move on, Holgerson would kind of be the guy there to hire as an analyst, and then
gotta assume he's gonna look for another head coaching job. I just don't know if he's gonna find one right now. Before he accepts anything lesser, I don't know if he's gonna. I think he's gonna look for head coaching.
Enjoy the $15 million buyout and take the year off. That's probably what I would do.
Yep, wouldn't blame him.
It's not a bad idea.
Poison Okie, do you guys think we'll pick up any defensive line transfers from A&M? I don't think any have entered. So until they enter, we don't really know. And I really don't think anyone will enter.
Hose is a big Eugene Robinson guy.
Elijah Robinson.
Same thing.
I want to call myself a big guy, but yeah, I mean, he's good at his job. That's what's keeping those guys there.
Who do we want to play in a bowl game? I think Alabama in the Cotton Bowl. It's still the dream scenario. That'd be awesome. See the latest bowl prediction, I think, had us in the Fiesta Bowl, though, or something. I saw maybe it was on 3 or something. Somebody put it. I forget who it was.
I think it was Andy Staples. Had us playing Washington, which I would love. But I would prefer Alabama. I think it'd be a lot of fun to play Alabama, but I think playing Washington would be a lot of fun too. I just want to be in New Year's Six Bowl. I don't care who we play. Same. I just want to be in New Year's Six.
Same. I think Oklahoma. The Alabama game would be more fun, I think, to go to as a fan. I think it'd be a tougher game. It'd be a way more fun game to win. I think if you go play Washington in the Fiesta Bowl, obviously Michael Penix probably won't play in that game with what he's got on the state, with what he has going forward for him. I think we'd win that game by a lot, which is always fun, but it's not like beating Alabama.
But you know where I don't want to go play? BL just mentioned the Cheez-It Bowl. It is now the Pop-Tart Bowl. I don't want to be in the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Wait, the Cheez-It Bowl's dead? It's the Pop-Tart Bowl?
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, unless I am dreaming this, but I am pretty sure the Cheez-It Bowl is now the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Was the Cheez-It Bowl called by RG3zit? Have you guys seen that commercial?
I've never seen that
commercial of all time.
I've never seen that.
Every single, I feel like it's part of at least once every single college football game. They bring up that Cheez-It commercial, and he calls himself RG3zit, and it's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, and at the Pop-Tarts Bowl, they're going to feature the very first edible mascot in sports history.
That's disgusting.
That is wild.
Yeah. No, so they... Yeah, it's no
Seems
longer...
like we're doing too much with that.
Is he supposed to eat himself out of that costume?
I have no idea.
Will others eat him out of that costume?
That's even more gross.
Imagine being the guy that gets punished by eating the crotch.
Brandon would probably volunteer for that.
No. Brandon would not volunteer for that.
All right. I think we've hit all the questions. If I missed you guys, I apologize. I think we hit all of them. Who do we want to play in the bowl game? We just answered that. Cool. Well, I think that was a good live. We stayed over 200.
That was an awesome live.
For most of this live, and we're still at 169.
Yep.
Shout out to you guys. That was fun.
Oh, next OU football commit. Sorry.
It's going to be a portal guy. I don't know who, but it's going to be a portal guy.
So not Eddie Pierre-Louis?
No.
Yeah, it's going to be a portal guy.
I'm going to go with someone in 2025, Nate Roberts.
We do need depth there.
We do.
His coach is now the coordinator, so should help a little bit getting that push through the finish line.
Colton Boomer. That would be almost a dream transfer portal get. If I woke up tomorrow and saw Colton Boomer committed to Oklahoma, I wouldn't hate it.
Facts. Man, almost an hour and a half. That was a great live stream.
Fantastic job. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Like, subscribe.
We're 54 subscribers away from 6,100.
Too easy.
So
54. Come on,
help us out. Turn the notification bell on. We're going to be turning out more content when it comes to recruiting. This is our favorite time of the year, the off season. How we're going to win the off season every year, and then win the national championship. It adds a lot of excitement. So
undefeated year one in the SEC. Heard it here first.
Something.
Too easy. Just score more points than the other team. 12 times.
That's all you need to do. It's really not that hard. I don't know why people complicate this game so hard.
True. All right. Well, we'll catch you guys next time.